changed our understandings. And he has changed a lot of what we do and how we look at things, whether it's in academia, whether it's in practice, or whether it's even on the policy level. He has at least as many honorary degrees as I have fingers on this hand. We are very thrilled that he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm hand of applause for Michael Fullan.
Is a marker year. And what I'm going to talk about, and I consider it to be a practical problem, is what's going to happen in the next 80 years, starting today. And I want to frame it as a battle, galactical proportions, between, on the one hand, catastrophe, and on the other hand, evolutionary nirvana. Now let's take the concept of evolution, which we work with more and more. Evolution is something that you can't control, obviously, but you can influence. You can detect the trends and reinforce them. And that those trends can go either way. They can go either way into denouement or to exhilaration. And I think when you compare these two, when you think of it, I'm going to illustrate it with some of the factors around three resources. But the idea is, who's going to win this battle? Is it going to be catastrophe, or is it going to be evolution of nirvanic proportions? And the more we work with evolution, the more I think of it this way. It's like holding hands with someone who is smarter than you. That's the image. And if we take, I want to take it in three parts. One is the problem, delve into it. A second is the source of the solution. And a third is the nature of the solution. So if we take the first one, the issue, there are two themes. We know these, but they're crystallizing, and we've been trying to track them, understand them, influence them for the last few years. But there are two, these are the two. One is obviously climatological catastrophe, that all of the things that are converging now have been seen. They represented in the latest book I read, it's called The Uninhabitable Earth. Chapter and verse as to why this earth is getting on the verge of being uninhabitable. And when you think about it that way, all of those issues, and this is what is most revealing about it, I think, is that people estimate humankind have been here for 200,000 years. But it's only the last 50 years, 2 generations, where the issues have become so voluminous and so comprehensive and so dominated by human presence that it's in this 99.99% percentage where something that we literally are affecting our own denouement is the best word to think about it. That in these 2 generations, yes, it was set earlier than that, but the critical mass of it is right now. And nobody is running the system. The system runs on its own. So that's one part. The second part is the galloping, increasing inequity all over the world. The difference in poverty to riches, that has been not only a trend for 30 years, it's been galloping, towering, incredibly consequential. So if you take these 2 forces, they feed within themselves, but they also cross over. The greater the climatological problem, the greater the extreme inequity, vice versa. So we've got a combination of things that really are, I think, so prominent, so comprehensive, so seemingly uncontrollable. But I want to think of it as a practical problem. What can we do about it if these two things are happening? And so I get to the second part, which is what are some of the possibilities, the things that head in the right direction? And I can think of two of them. One, to go back to evolution, something we've been using and studying. And evolution, if you think about how to influence it, the simplest way to think about it is it's an interaction and combination of genes, culture, and consciousness. And that interaction is not uninfluenceable. And so if we begin to say, where does it come from? Well, one of the biologists, the evolutionary biologist we use is E.O. Wilson. He puts it this way. He said, my optimism is in the fact that evolution is relentlessly bottom up. This tells us the solution is going to be bottom up, middle outward. It's not going to come from the top. And that's his conclusion about how evolution works. It'll work in your favor in surprising ways, and you can influence it. So that's one part of where the source will come from. The other part is to think about the role of young people. We've been talking about it all week, and this is going to be, the issue is how to understand it better. And this is a hard thing to pull apart in 2 or 3 minutes, but I want to think of it simply this way. We won't get the solution from the millennials. The solution that those that were born 1985 or 1980 to 1995. So in those 15-year period, they were potentially could be mobilized for this, and they are being, but they won't be the leaders of it. That generation wasn't set for that. Evolutionary, it wasn't set for that. But Gen Z, those born 1995 onward, is different. There's a combination here. There's a kind of mystery about it, and the way I describe it or summarize it, it's about 50% high anxiety and 50% wanting to improve the world. That those two things are, and if the anxiety goes too high, it explodes and implodes into itself. But if it's not there, it doesn't provide the edge. And the goal of improving the world, and we have given in our deep learning work the theme that we got from young people, engage the world, change the world. Engage the world to learn about it, to do something about it. The things you hear all week, here are some of the directions that will lead to greater impact that coming from young people and then connecting with others to do that. If you think of this, some of the lyrics of the song that you heard on the entry, from Katie Lang, the Canadian singer, that constant craving, a nice kind of mission statement for change agents, for Gen Z. Two of the lines in there, the ones I played that we came on to, one was, maybe the truth will come from a giant magnet that pulls all souls towards the truth. But the second thing she said, maybe it's life itself that feeds wisdom to the youth. Life itself, and this is what I'm proposing. Education is to change the lives of students and others in order to make the natural wisdom and the natural instincts of Gen Z and all of the other youth that we're mobilizing into the solutions we're talking about. The third part is what is the nature of the solution. You need an organizer of some sort that's not impositional, but is not passive. And that organizer for us is, in our own work, our team, are the 6 C's, the competencies, but also the infrastructure that comes around with that. The infrastructure of how schools and others, and a lot of things that Global South and Global North, what we've been looking to see, what are the complementarity part of it. And I want to finish by saying artificial intelligence is the machine version of deep learning. It is decidedly inhuman and destructive as it projects into the future. But deep learning, the way that I'm talking about, is the human version of this, and this human version is an amazing mobilizer, and it will affect the future evolution of the next 10 years, the next 8 years if we last that long. But if we do last that long, it won't be just because we've solved a few problems, it'll be because we've transformed humanity for all of world good. Thank you very much.